Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. If you're looking for PTCG live codes, make sure you check out the Potown store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using that code OmniPoke. Today we're going to be taking a look at the first week of online tournaments in the Black Bolt and White Flare expansion, and in fact there's a $1,000 prize pool in one of these with over 1,500 players in it, and second place was a really spicy list. So I'm going to look at the Smart Series at the end of the video. For now we're going to have a quick look over what the most popular decks have been coming into the Black Bolt and White Flare and quickly give that overview of like how decks have changed, and then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of tournaments because I think there are 9 events we're going to look at today, looking at the most interesting and best performing deck lists as we go. Golden Go is actually the most popular individual deck in the online scene over this last week, and it's because it has some major upgrades from the set. It has Air Balloon and it has Genesect EX coming out, so it's much more consistent at what it wanted to do. And Air Balloon naturally gives you more maneuverability, but also just gives you more general draw power with coin bonus that can make things come together. It's also been quite successful as well. There's a lot of them in the top 8 standings throughout these tournaments that we're going to be looking at with some small variation going on there. And I think the selling point of Golden Go is that it can power through the Stage 2 matchups quite nicely. I think it's pretty solid into Grimmsnarl, Dragapult, and Gardevoir actually, with its biggest, like, less favourable matchups being like Flareon, Typhlosion, and Charizard, which are still, you know, among that top 10 of popularity, but far less so being relevant than those sort of top 3 that we sort of expected in the NAIC, right? We said Grimmsnarl, Dragapult, and Guardy were some of the best decks in the room. And Golden Go being able to feast on those archetypes and inherently just be more consistent means it's actually in a pretty good placement. I think most people would say that Golden Go is now like also a tier 1 deck alongside those stage 2s and possibly still alongside the Raging Bolt, which doesn't really gain anything from this set, to be honest with you. Grimmsnarl likewise doesn't really gain much, but has Air Balloon now, which maybe lets you play Maractus that little bit more. Dragapult's interesting, where Hilda could be coming into some of the straight pults. Dragazard basically unchanged, but gains Balloon. Gardevoir is interesting as well, where there seems to be still more straight Gardevoir, or at least I think there's also along this bucket like 1-1 lines of Jellicent than the 2-2 line of Jellicent here that you can see in Guardy Jelly. Because it felt like from the Japanese data, at least from their national tournament, the Jelly build was doing really well, and like a heavier focus on Devo was coming back into Guardy. And we're sort of going to juggle and see some of the more successful lists today of like where that tug of war lands with Gardevoir. It feels like it's having that sort of recreation of itself once again, where at the NAIC we saw Turbo Energize, Monkey Dory coming out to try and tackle the Grimmsnarl question mark, and now there are new questions being asked of the format, and that means that Gardevoir is having to adapt again. Some people incorporating the 2-2 Jelly, which yes is a lot of space and makes you less consistent but has big upsides, and then there's still people sticking with tried and trusted Guardy. Charizard Pidgeot having that resurgence as well, of course, won the seniors at the NAIC from one of the best players we've ever seen, at least in that age division, like no doubt, who was able to get maximum championship points, which is crazy, and also brought a really strong build of Charizard as well to the table, where it's TM Evo focused and has like Monkey and also Picnic Basket, so lots of ways to counteract the spreading strategies in the format. And Charizard's sort of enjoying the fact that Golden Go is so popular right now. I think that's a pretty solid matchup for Charizard. We're going to see some Chi-Yus in the results later on as well, and that also obviously helps out. Similar thing for Typhlosion, really. It gets better in a vacuum because it gains the Brave Bangle, but also just sort of profiting from Golden Go being so popular right now. It's rare that you see Golden Go over that 10% meta share, which is what it is right now. And then Flareon, again, sticking to the same. Flareon, I feel like, is underplayed for how decent its placement is, honestly. I feel like Flareon's only really bad into Guardy, and then, like, it should be decent into Dengo, Grim. Raging Bolt is, like, average, I think. And then, like, it should be fairly strong into Dragapult. And then it's more weak into, I think, the Guardy side of things. That's really the only, like, bad matchup, I think, for Flareon. And I feel like it's underplayed right now. Dragadusk is less popular than the other two by quite some margin, actually, which is kind of interesting to see. Crustal's been picking up in popularity. Joltik Box has really been dipping from popularity, and interestingly, the Miraidon Eels hasn't really picked up. We know that Zekrom EX is a strong card, as well as the Eel, giving us sort of that rebirth that we've seen of previous Miraidons, where it was early aggressive generator, rely on Dynamotor to sort of catch you up on attachments throughout the game. And we'll see 1 or 2 lists in the top 8s, but really not, you know, having a fast start by any means. I think it's a combination of the list still being figured out, but also possibly Zekrom not as powerful as we first anticipated, in that there's just so many archetypes that can play around its damage output in terms of like setting up a 4-prize turn to end the game against all these basic multi-prizes, that maybe Zekrom isn't going to be that be-all and end-all that we perhaps expected. Although there are 1 or 2 lists that I'm still pretty excited by as well. Charizard Dusk, only at that 1.8%, but there's a few really high-profile results for this deck as well, so keep an eye out for that. I feel like that might be upticking. But that's the overall like umbrella of the metagame. Golden Go seems to be that like easy-to-play, fun deck that got natural improvements that like everyone can easily pick up and play, so that's why it's like so popular. But then there's the sort of more subtle changes of the other sort of top decks. There's Charizard creeping back with Pidgeot and also with Dustoir to keep an eye out for. And the lightning stuff isn't making that big splash that perhaps we anticipated. And Jelly is in that tug of war with straight builds of Gardevoir as well. That's the overview. Now let's jump into some more specifics. Starting off with the Tournament of Doom, where we have that Charizard Dustoir deck. I think a lot of people's jaws were dropping when they saw this deck list. Very, very cool list indeed, because it's a Trolley Evo build of Zard, but rather than having Pidgeot, it's choosing to have a 4-3-2 line of Cursed Blast Dustoir, as well as having 3 Jet Energy and Tatsu. Now, Tatsu lets you attract for customers. It gives you an easier way into Arven Evo in the first place, but also just during the game, of course, because you're pulling out energy for free with Infernal Rain, you can naturally float attachments for Tatsu, and it means that you can have access to your boss, your research, your Iono, that sort of thing, and Jacques also an all-star in the deck because it's getting you more blasters. And the idea is that Burning Darkness is a crazy good attack. Let's just ramp ourselves as quickly as possible to Burning Darkness being a one-hit KO machine, and let's just manipulate the prize race in that regard and possibly take out some engine Pokemon from opponents as we do so, or get some multi-prizes into range from this guy earlier, so that Zard is being that crazy beat stick. Really cool to see that Pidgeot's been sort of shifted away from and just saying that let's just go for the Curse Blast approach instead and power through basically anything in our path, because a lot of the stage 2s, like definitely Dragapult and Grim, they rely on sticking on the board, either from, you know, an attachment standpoint from Dragapult so they can keep up with their Phantom Dives, or Grimmsnarl naturally wanting to use its Monkey as much as possible, so it's hoping to absorb damage. Both of those decks really do not appreciate just being smacked through, and this build is really trying to allow Charizard to smack through just some early blasting plus Iono, and then also the fact that as your opponent has to deal with these Zards, suddenly the second Zard will get them, essentially, is the idea. So, very powerful stage 2, and you can see the cheeky Chi-Yu in here trying to help out against the Golden Go, and also helping out against Bolts to an extent as well. Obviously, the Blasters also can help out in that instance, but yeah, pretty powerful. And also these help you get through annoying Walling Mons as well, so actually pretty good, and we're going to see more from it as well. Joltik Box made second place. Pretty routine list, to be honest with you, just adding in the air balloon. I think there are going to be some more innovative lists that we see later. That's not necessarily like a diss on this list at all, but it just shows that like the tried and trusted of Joltik Box is still obviously a powerful option that we have going for us, and air balloon is an easy upgrade, I suppose, in the deck. Then we start seeing some Golden Go. So in this instance, there was 5 in the initial top 8, which I think got some heads turning, and is possibly part of the reason why 4 in the top 8, and then also 1 in 9th and 10th, right? This is possibly part of the reason why we started to see more Golden Go, because just from the first tournament of the week, it did so well, and then suddenly we have easy copy-paste for people to try out. But there's some obvious upgrades here, right? Genesect means you can play a Nest Ball engine and play 4 copies, which means you get into the game more easily just by seeing more Gimmighoul and whatnot. But it also means that on turn 2, even under like item lock, you have no problem getting double Golden Go if you found the Genesect on turn 1. And then suddenly you're drawing more cards, and then the air balloons naturally allow you to pivot around your guys, but also just bonus for more cards, etc. Also means you get to play the Scizor a bit more comfortably. Scyther just a good lead in the deck, natural free retreat. Poffinable, of course, and then Scizor is searched for free, so just another 1 energy attacker and a single prize mon. The Levincia Stadium, pretty strong one, to be honest with you. We had it in our tabletop video, where it just gives you extra burst damage, and it means that even under item lock from Frillish or Budew, you can still have some reach to get through them with Make It Rains. It means you're not going to have the rug pulled up against you, against some of these stage 2s where you have to go all out with superiors to take KOs on their big multi-prizes. They can't suddenly just go like, okay, counter catcher, Budew, hope that you've spent all your energy. You at least have Levincia that can then allow you to either retreat or to make it rain through these lower hit point item lockers. And then there's also the 3 boss and the bundle. This is becoming much more popular. Obviously, we saw this in the Japanese Nationals tournament where there was that elevated, I think it was a full 4 copies of boss. Most people have landed on 3 plus the bundle. I think this makes sense, to be honest with you. A lot of the Guardies will give you Artisan, and that can help you around Jellicent anyway. But just generally, having that elevated count of boss allows you to be more aggressive with Dengo. I think because you so easily get into the game now, like Golden Go just gains so much consistency by having 4/4 ball search and then having Genesect to grab the stage 1s, just much more consistently than ever before. It means you can just turn to boss evolving stage 1s. Like if you're bossing up Cloaks and you're bossing up Curlies, that sort of thing, you're just a much more dangerous deck at doing that now. So it's a really nice change from the list. Some interesting shout-outs. There's Band plus Picnic rather than any Monkey Door reaction whatsoever. I guess that's because you're going Levincia based, but I think there's a bit of a tug of war right now of like, what is that right split? Whether or not you're playing Sizzle, whether or not you're playing Monkey Dark. Well, you're going to play Dark regardless, right, because of E-Search, but whether you're playing Monkey or if you're playing Picnic, the Rigid Band also helps out against the Stage 2s as well. It makes the Turret a little bit stronger because the natural damage output of the Stage 2s are just far worse into you, and I suppose it's also better into Zard as well to an extent. So yeah, that's some interesting stuff for the Dengo going forward. A really nice starting point list to get us discussing, but there are going to be some other lists that we look at as well. I'm not going to look at all of the 4 from this top 8 because there are just other top 8s where there's even more Golden Go. But in this instance, it's a slightly thinner Levincia to incorporate the Monkey in Dark. No Jelly in this instance, just still the double Turo though. And it has the Strike It Rich Golden Go. I think this is a decent option to have instead of Scizor if you want to save a space and still have a single prize KO guy. It's far less annoying than it used to be because this can also be ballooned and retreated out of. If you just strike it rich, your opponent chooses not to KO it and like, you know, snipes another Pokemon or does this, that, and the other, you can still sort of like get out of it and get into an EX a little bit easier now with Balloon and Double Turo to move it. So that's a small note there, but yeah, again, similar story here, just not playing as Scizor in this instance. I do think that 3 Nest 1 Ultra Ball is like an interesting topic of debate. I think the only real reason you should do that is if you're fearful of Klefki, so that you can still Arven for Ultra Ball and get a stage 1 without putting Genesect down. But I think generally you almost always want to see Nest Ball in that opening hand, and therefore I think 4 Nest Ball still probably takes priority. There's also the small debate. We saw it in the second place list, but this list is all errand running gimmies, and I think with especially if you play 3 Balloon, there's an argument to play 1 Call for Family gimme just to get you an extra gimme onto the board, or to get you with a free Monkey or the free Scyther, that sort of thing. Just a small thing there that we're seeing a bit more variation in the gimme call. Obviously not in this deck list, but more generally, because now you can pop into the Call for Family gimme and get a freebie after that, or possibly you could Air Balloon and go into Budju. Again, not in this list, but will be showing up in some of the other Golden Goes that we look at later. Frostas Monkey in the top 8. Gains the... Well, I guess there's actually not anything new. I guess the balloons make Maractus a little bit better. I think balloons also make Blood Moon a bit better, because now you can attach an energy plus a balloon and get into Budju, even if you start Blood Moon, which was like previously a big problem for that. But even Maractus having balloon is a big upgrade. Still double Devo. You can see what they're up to, right? They're just trying to target down the evolving stuff and have a good time there. Flareon in a field of Dengo. Did they just whiff Dengo in their top cut? Yeah, they lost to the Joltik. They missed all the Dengo. So sad. But yeah, looking like a pretty standard list. Has the 101 Pidgeot plus 1 Candy, which does require some wiggle room, but it lets you have a more developed board, I think. Pretty solid stuff overall. So that is the first Tournament of Doom. Let's jump on to the Ditto Blue, where it's a Crustle getting first and top 4. You know what's going on. We're trying to sit behind good old, what's it called? Mysterious Rock In, which is basically just saying no, waggling the finger at EX Pokemon. You got the Ascension Crustle, you got some monkeys in here to try and undo some damage. You got the Poker Vital A Specker as well. The Luxurious Capes, the Mist Energies to stop the opponent doing anything they want. You've got the Cornerstone as well. An annoying wall, definitely, no doubt about that. Has the Chorus's Tenacity for 3 different stadiums as well. Lets you get the Town Store going. Lets you have the Practice Studio. What does 130 let you do? Don't know. Maybe it also works with Monkey. I guess 130 is a breakpoint for a few bulkier basics, but maybe it's just generally more flexibility with Monkey Math and whatnot. Yeah, kind of interesting. Yeah, Crustal's just like an annoying deck. This isn't anything new, right? It's just like, can you be bothered to tech against it? I think this other one in top 4 is slightly different, where it's... Oh, interesting. It's actually Relicanth Flail rather than having Ascension. That has to be bad for consistency, but like... I guess it gives you turns of higher damage output, because you can cape up Crustal, force the opponent to prod you, and then you just go Flail instead. And it means that you can like... weird. Surely that's just worse than... I don't know. What else we got in the top 8, though? A Grimmsnarl. Again, doesn't gain much, but gains Balloon, right? And Balloon's just a strict upgrade for the deck. Interesting that this list plays no Artisan whatsoever. I know there's a debate around like how many Spikemuth versus Artisan, and this is a list that's trying to play the heavy nest for the Fez, which was quite popular in some lists for NAIC, but I do think, just simply because of box, I always want to have one Artisan in my list. I know it gives the opponent sometimes they're out to Shabin, and sometimes they're out to their own monkey to undo your monkey, and it becomes a monkey war. But I still feel like Artisan just lets you be more flexible with your early box for Poffin Spikemuth, and it lets you go Poffin plus Artisan, which lets you go like Imp Runt Monkey or Imp Runt Shaman, and that sounds really good. And then in some instances you're getting like Imp Runt. I suppose you can still do that with Spikemuth, but it's really the Shaman and the Monkey the big standouts here of like what you can do with an Artisan rather than a Spikemuth. I feel like I still want to have that flexibility. And also sometimes in mid-games you're just yearning for more monkeys, right? They're so often targeted by opponents. I don't know, I still feel like it's a good card. Let's have a look at Typhlosion then. This is, again, gaining the new Brave Bangle for more damage mod. Means that Bangle plus Victini, if all 4 Ethans are in the bin, you're hitting 320 with the Buddy Blast. That's definitely nothing to sniff at. You also have the Grav Mountain if you have to get through Zards, which is becoming more relevant again, I think. And obviously this is a single prize fire guy, so should be pumping through Gongo, no issues. There's the cheeky Picnic to try and help out against some spread stuff. Definitely rate that. Box is a great card, just for having more discard synergy for your Ethans. You can like use Quilava to grab a bunch of them and then just yeet them away to immediately get a big Buddy Blast off. Just the one candy in here. You're normally slow evolving anyway, so that makes sense. The double rod. No Night Stretch is interesting. I guess it's just trying to make space by going double rod and just saying I'm going to maximize this and cloak back into them. Kind of good. I like having some sort of backup engine. Definitely makes sense to have something helping you out there. And why not Cloak? He's a good guy. What else we got? More Joltik. A couple of them in the top cuts. Interesting list. It's playing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tools. Playing no Clefairy or Psychic. But then it also lets them have Genesect's an Ace Nullifier card. I think Genesect's just like a big tech in the format now. If there's going to be more Golden Go, obviously that's one thing you'd love to nullify. Neo Upper Pult as well, you'd love to nullify against that. Trolley Zard, that's a good nullifier now, if you're quick enough, obviously. I feel like there are some good nullifiers in the format for this. The only question mark is, like, is it right in Joltik box, right? Because very often I just want to be prioritizing my ball search to be Mew, Fez, Latty. And like, there's only some matchups where I think the nullifier is like the right thing to go for, rather than naturally finding it. And you don't draw that many cards with this deck. So I love Ace Nullifier, I don't know how much I love it in this deck. And I still think Goggles is like flawed logic. It's meant to be a tech card for Raging Bolt, right? But they naturally still play the Jamming Tower. I don't see that changing. Like, you goggle a peak, but then you still get slithered if they can owl for Stadium. And you play no hand disruption, so their hand's going to be massive by that point in the game. Definitely an interesting talking point that Nullifier good, maybe not in this deck. Goggles just terrible. Make it a second balloon, why not? That would be fine. If you wanted to have the critical mass of tools. Definitely a different build though. Let's have a look at our first Dragazard. There was a couple of them in this top cut. Just a small upgrade of Balloon. It means that like panic confusing Charizard from like Guardy is just so much worse. You can pivot out for free now and keep the energy on him, which is just disgusting. A big reason why there were some Dragazards playing Prime Catcher was because Zard could get like annoyingly trapped and you would just like prime and carry on. So having Balloon is like a nice thing to have, and then you get to keep Stamp. The sneaky Brock in here, what's this normally? This is like a Shaman, or I'm not sure actually what space has been nicked. sometimes Cleffa, sometimes a few other things, but yeah, good list of Dragazard, small upgrade, but definitely still like the 50-50 deck of the format, I think. Let's have a look at a Roaring Moon, a Turbo Moon doing well. Again, no new cards at all, actually, but just sticking to good old aggression as the cheeky 1 Pokemon catcher. Wild times. There's actually a really cool poison deck that I want to look at later. Let's jump to the Mudkip tournament then, a winning Golden Go, so let's take a peek. This one is playing no Sizzle, but it is playing the one Call for Family Gimme that we sort of mentioned. Is playing Ace Nullifier. Now, I think this deck is really good at playing Ace Nullifier, because now you play the 4 Nest to try and help you get there. I definitely think it makes sense in this deck. And 3 Balloon is like a sweet spot anyway for the list. The Cornerstone, I suppose, is just a mirror tech, because you're expecting a bunch of Dengo after they did so well the day before. The Scrapper is interesting. I guess you can't play Jamming Tower anymore, and adding Scrapper means that you can punish Guardies that overdamage their guys. But how many Guardies are overdamaging now? I feel like most of them are either Jelly, where they don't care, or they're going to be Devo Monkey based. So I don't know how good Scrapper actually is for Guardie. Is it good for like Mirror? Not great, because you don't play any hand disruption anyway. I don't know, maybe you just cut. Maybe Scrapper's just like an easy cut. It could be a second Levincia, it could be a second Turo. It could just be like a... could be your way to add in a... I guess you don't need to play a Strike It Rich, because you have Demolish as a wall breaker as well. Yeah, maybe this isn't just a mirror tech card. Maybe the Cornerstone is also just like a, at least I beat Control, because I can... I guess 1 Cornerstone doesn't beat Control, right? Because you have to slow attach to it, but maybe it gives you a chance into them, at least. I don't know, definitely some elements I like here. I think the Scrapper is like, is it really worth the space? Is my question mark. And then, like, is Cornerstone better than a Strike It Rich? Just so you can have a single prize thing that can tee off the single prize race. I do like the innovation with the... Oh, I don't like continuous coin toss, though. I still think errand running is better than coin toss. I guess your opponent's already incentivized to hand disrupt you, because you signal Genesect turn 1 anyway and get some Dengo to hand, so they're going to look to Iona you anyway. Maybe. Maybe that's the logic? I don't know. I don't feel like coin toss is that good, though. What's the upside? Not really seeing that too much. We got Miraidon. This is the list that I was like most interested in. So this is the best performing new age Don that we've seen, I think, in this first week. And rather than playing any Eels whatsoever, it's just playing Magnets. And the big upside of Magnet, obviously, it's more upfront energy attachments that you gain over an Eel, which is trying to like accumulate value over time. So it gets you into like an instant hands or an instant Zekrom. But that's the big thing, right? It's that it's trying to push Zekrom. And Zekrom can sometimes be played around by opponents. Like Dragapult and Guardy should be able to play around this pretty well by just taking 2 prizes and then looking to mop up their final 4 with spread. So it keeps Voltage Burst at 230, which is not scary for them. But suddenly with a Magnet, you got to 280, which is still not super scary for some of those stage 2s, but it means that in like other matchups like Dengo and whatnot, that 1 prize won't help them anyway in terms of a map, but then it just pushes the Zekrom itself. There's definitely synergy between the 2 cards, right? It's just obvious synergy here. So maybe there's a world where this combination is just better than playing Eels whatsoever, and just say, like, Generator, take the wheel. I think the sort of, like, greed cards of the Super Rod that I think is just better as a Night Stretcher. The Magnets make the Countercatcher better, obviously. Thorns seems like a techie include, but could be decent. Definitely slow down some stuff. These are things to bear in mind. Maybe Thorns is worthwhile just for slowing down Dengo, maybe. Something like that, I think, is the main logic there. So that you can get aggressive with the deck. But I do feel like it could be quite easy to go hand Zekrom against a Dengo anyway. Interesting idea, though. I do think this combination might end up being better than Eels, honestly, from my first impressions of this, just to force the subject with Zekrom. Like, he's no doubt an insanely good attacker. You just have to really commit your deck to make him work. More Dengos, I'm sure there's just slight variations going on here. We've already seen the gist, and I've talked about a few other options, but we have a Tord-style Neo-Upper Pulse. In fact, no new cards whatsoever going on in the list. I think we will see some builds that are playing the Hilda, though, which I think is strong. Raging Bolt basically unchanged, so these are just like tech decisions, I think, at this point, if there's anything interesting here. This is a cycling road build, which I'm not sure how much I agree with. Also has Fan Rotom with no targets, just as a 1 for 70 guy. Definitely A-list. Did pretty well, though. A Charizard in top 8. There are going to be more Zards that we look at. I think most of them are modelled off of the Fernandez build. This is a build with a 2-1-1 Dusknoir, though, so a bit more going on in this list. Let's have a look at the SMG Nightly Standard, or it was won by a Jelly Guardian. In fact, 2 Jelly Guardies in the top 8 here. Let's see how this one's shaping up then. So leaning into the double Devo is definitely something that like is quite common in a Jelly build. In fact, Devo is more common even in straight Guardies now. But the idea is that power presses can pressurize quite nicely whilst you monkey spread onto things, and then Devo in the face of some decks is really good because you're stopping Candy and you're stopping Evo back into you, I suppose. So that's like very commonplace with modern age Jelly Guardi. The other big note is Klefki, right? This is a big tech card for Guardi, I think, once again. So right now in the format, with online being so prevalent with Golden Go, you can shut down Genesect, which is big. You can also shut down Monkey Dory, which I think is the other like crucial element here. When you're trying to be the Devo deck and do monkey math for setting up a multi-prize turn, you can do the Devo, or like you can Klefki before you're trying to Devo and just like end your turn with this guy, or even just jousting for 10 can sometimes be relevant, especially if you're trying to trap stuff, right? You can use this Mon to like frustrate the opponent and stop your opponent monkeying you back. So if you're trying to set up this multi-prize turn, and especially against Grimmsnarl, if you're trying to Devo them, you can go Klefki, force them to have Gust, and obviously Grimmsnarl is much more known for having a higher count of Countercatcher than it is Boss, right? So you can go Klefki, and you have reasonable odds of them not bossing you back, and they can't monkey down the Klefki because you're locking them out. And then suddenly you can be the one Devoing them. And if you're Devoing the Grimmsnarl with the big jelly in the active the following turn, that can be a big problem for them, right? You can do like a big wipe and then they can't Evo back or they can't Candy back into you. So I think this is definitely going to be a big card, not just for Grimmsnarl, it's for other matchups where you're going to try and like monkey set up a big swing turn. And with Double Devo, that's clearly like the avenue this deck wants to go down. So yeah, Jelly Guardi, definitely like Devo scam vibes that I get from it. From Jelly being good at trapping and annoying stuff, basically forcing Turo out of decks because Air Balloon's not good enough, and a lot of people are weaving in balloons right now. And also just making the Devo even stronger. And obviously you have Frillish to try and buy time now as well, which is also just a great card for Guardi setting up a Devo turn, just naturally going Frillish and just doing the 20 pokes whilst doing a bit of monkey throwing, then leads into the Devo nicely as well. So Guardi going back to like slowing the game down seems to be like a big emphasis of the deck. And then just still having the aggression against the Pult side of things when it has to. We have some more of the top decks. I think we've seen enough of, like, we don't need to look too much into the Raging Bolts or the Dengos. I'm just going to look at them because they're in the top cut. This is a turbo build, so no Owls. Has the Budu in there. Really important for the no Owl list to play the Budu. There is a top 4 Dengo, so we'll just have a quick peek. Levincia is really popular in some of these online lists as well. This is playing the no Monkey. It seems like there's a debate between Monkey or not in the list, whether it's worth the space. I feel like you definitely can play one Dark, one Monkey if you really just want to have that option. And I feel like that option's probably worthwhile. Charizard in top 4. Just have the Jamming Tower even though it's playing the Max Belt. Still leading into that Evo, that sort of stuff. Usual culprits with the Charizard Pidge. A couple interesting other lists in the top 8 though. Pidgeot Control coming in here, with Elgium being one of the new includes, where you can move an energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon to another. And one of the crucial techs is that it doesn't have to be your opponent's active Pokemon, right? So you can move from anywhere. So if you're successfully trapping, you can continue using Elgium to make it harder and harder for the opponent to do stuff. Has the Defiance Vest Corner Garganical option, which means you can trap Monkey Dories. Also is just helpful at healing off against like Dragapult attacks and whatnot, if need be. Has the Gemstone plays, which is just generally so annoying right now. Gemstone took a big hit because of Air Balloon, naturally, but like there's still disruption for tools in the deck, like Ruffian and whatnot, so Yeah, still has annoying walls from Ogerpon, still has Milotic to deny Turo. Yeah, still an annoying deck, no doubt, with a ton of options. There's another interesting control Pidgeot that I want to look at later as well that is Alamamola based. We have a Spidops control quickly. Oh, this is the one actually, yeah. So Alamamola allows you to make the most out of your one-offs here. Cubchoo can stop the defending Pokemon attacking. Dene recover stuff. Knuckles a corner trapper. Elgin moves as energy. Mimikyu's an annoying wall. So yeah, just the one Alamamola like stitches together the most annoying attacker whenever you want to, and then Spidops is just like slowly ramping up that retreat cost, similar to what we saw with the gemstones in some of the other lists. But this time you don't really want to have the gemstone because you want to pivot between your Alamamola and Balloon and stuff. Kind of a cool idea going on there, certainly. There was also a Wugtrio mill that I suppose is worth looking at, where you have Hilda now to help you get... Oh, and Ignition is new. So you can Hilda and just consistently grab your energy to flip your coins for the mill, and then it also has the neutralization zone, similar to how Great Tusk played this stadium card. If you've just milled enough stadiums, you can neutralize, and suddenly they're in a whole world of trouble, even if, you know, it's going to take you a few more turns to mill them out. And then you just have the backup Cloak engine because you're using Hilda the whole time, so you're topping up on cards from Cloak. Pretty cool idea. The Wugtrio. Definitely still like Mimi, but not necessarily the worst. Anything else I want to look at from this top 8? No, I think that covers most of it. Let's go on to the Pumpkin Weekly. Won by Charizard Pidgeot. Definitely making this resurgence. I think Charizard is back in a big way. Not just because of Golden Go either, to be honest with you. I think just generally, it's now that we've seen that it had to be the thick stage 1 Evo approach to make it work. I think we're just seeing more and more success from this deck because it's still such a powerful combination with Quick Search getting what you want and Zard being inevitable in the late game. This is the one Hilda. Definitely a decent Quick Search target, right? It lets you weave in Monkey quicker, gets you Mist to protect against Devo. Does have the Picnic in here as well. Yeah, I mean, it's just got a lot of answers in the format right now. Definitely still solid. More Jelly Guardy this time in second place. This is, yeah, playing the Devos, playing the Klefki. Snuck in the Cleffer, but that's pretty much all to be said there. We have a Typhlosion in top 4. Still with those Bangles and the Grav. I think most people are settling on the same counts. I wonder if we're ever going to go back up to 2 Victini if there's enough Charizard to hit 330 now. Possibly, right? If Charizard becomes big enough. Terrabox in top 8. Definitely interesting. Paldean Tauros. Is Cornerstone not the better tech for Dengo? I feel like Cornerstone is probably the better tech. But he's a single prize fire guy. He's definitely going to annoy the Golden Go players. Sure. Let's grit our teeth. Not bad though. What else have we got? Yeah, that's pretty much the most interesting stuff from this top 8. There was a Miraidon Eels in top 16. This is a list that plays both the Magnet and the Eel, which I think some people have been landing on as well, where you just say that like there's going to be matchups where your opponent won't touch your single prizer even if you blow up a Magnet, or like it's the same because they're not doing bench damage anyway. This is an interesting Zeraora as well. It does a 210 snipe to EXs. Definitely a good single prize mon. I think it's less relevant if you're playing it with Magnet. I think it's more relevant if you don't play Magnet and you just have Eel Zera, because then it's actually a prize offset. In this instance, it's really not. So yeah. But I fundamentally like Magnet Countercatcher helping Zekrom out. I do think that's solid. Area 0 with Peak. Huh, that's kind of interesting. I don't know if I like that though. It's a lot of space to commit just to try and make it happen. Bit sus of that, to be honest with you. Seeing 14 basic energy as well, I feel like, especially if you're going Magneton, I want this to be up to like 15, 16, honestly. Generator is still your win condition, 100%. Like if you're not getting a turn 1 hands, your deck is just flopping. I want to go up to 16 energy. I'm just saying it now. Ceruledge, I know this is just middling records, but we haven't seen a Ceruledge yet. Yeah, it's more of the same of what we've seen. Not incorporating much new here. Let's jump to the Cristiano 65 with a straight Pulp getting a 10-1 record. And incorporating Hilda, so still very much the essence of Towards build, but 2 Hilda I think is like a really good sweet spot to get that Neo Upper more availably. Also just getting more access to your Monkey Luminous combo, which is still really good throughout the game. A lot of the time you're fishing with your recons just to not whiff attachments, and Hilda just helps with that a lot. Obviously, as you progress through the game, still it becomes Iono boss for the most part, so you don't need to go crazy on the Hilda. Like, I've been juggling all sorts of counts of Hilda. There was a point where I was at 4 Arven, 4 Hilda, and that was like way too much, but now I'm like steadily getting more back in line and just saying that 1 or 2 is right, so you have those guarantees of attachments throughout the game. Because I think there are those turns where you're like, right, if I just get attachment here plus counter catcher's good, or if I just get attachment for monkey, I'm set. Those sorts of things are nice, and it's always like a decent turn 2 supporter if you have to, similar to like Brock, right, where you can still at least get a Drakloak and get something going. So yeah, I do really like Hilda in the straight pulse. It is a nice upgrade. Not too much to be said about the greenies, to be honest with you. The only thing to say is that Maractus is a bit better with Balloon, and I suppose Blood Moon is as well, for the same reasons. Like, you can still get into Budgie turn 1 by going attach Balloon and get out of there. And obviously Arven can help you get that, so I think that's pretty reasonable. I do like this stadium splits. I think 3-1 is also a good split, to be honest with you. Typhlosion again in the top 4. These aren't too different with deck lists either, to be honest with you, but just showing more success from the deck. More Crustal. This is one of the coolest decks, I think. The top 8 from the Poison Terrapagos. Very, very cool. So we've seen Poison Terrapagos as a combo before. Obviously, it used to be Trolley, Wombo combo, you know, like get it all going turn 1. This is a bit more like in the middle, I think, where based on the support account, I still think you choose to go second, and you try and get a turn 1 Frillish, and you try and go Mochi, Frillish, Bonnet, and do 70 damage Frillish prods. I think that's what you're trying to go for with this list. But obviously, you have the high roll of, like, they let you go first. Sometimes you can just, like, Carmine and Squawk and turn 1 get it. But I think it's more so about trying to Frillish those early prizes, knowing that you have Trumpets for Turtle or for Blood Moon in your sort of mid-game. And essentially saying that Frillish is an upgrade on Budgie, because that 10 extra damage lets you get to 70 again, with the Mochi to 60 and then the Bonnet to 70. It means that Frillish is taking a prize whilst maintaining lock and denying Fez all in one attack. That's like really nutty. It also sets up Monkey for you. Obviously you have Trumpet and E-Switch, so you can like switch off Terrapagos to Monkeys and just manipulate the damage even further. The Darkness Energy also means that Pecharunt can attack, which is kind of cool. You can poison the Pecharunt, so Pech can also be like a late game bomb. There's actually a lot going on here. It doesn't feel that crazy, and it feels a lot clunkier than old builds, but like what you're doing is still the essence of that deck, and even more flexible actually, because you're not double turbo tied. You have the flexibility of Trumpet E-Switch to like weave in Petch, weave in Urs that little bit easier, and weave in Monkey a little bit easier. So I think this is a really cool list. Definitely want to explore with this one. I don't know if Perilous should be at 2, maybe just at 1 for a box option. Maybe it is 2 just so you can donk. Yeah, okay, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, I've got to play around with this one, because there's some things that don't look necessarily intuitive, like why is it not just 4/4 ball if you're trying to have donk potential and trying to do whatever else. But like, I think this is a really, really cool idea, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on. Definitely some cool innovation. I'd love Poison Turtle to be back. Definitely a cool deck. Let's jump on to the Lucky Draw. Another victory for Dragapults. Still Neo Upper. This is just the Tord list, right? The 2... it's only 1 Monkey. It's just slightly different, but same concept going on here. Beating a Draga Dusk in the finals. Even the Draga Dusk has added in the Hilda, though. Another supporter that can weave its way in. It feels like 2 is that sweet spot for Hilda, similar to how we've seen Jacques in the past. Definitely seems like the right count, just so that you can have the option to see through cloaks throughout the game and be like, oh, this is a good turn for it. Or like, nah, let's stash it to the bottom. I don't need it right now. But just having that peace of mind for Neo Upper is a big deal. Top 4 Raging Bolt. Let's have a quick scout. Yeah, the Owls are still important. Playing just 80 hit pointers. I suppose that's fine. Cyclone. Nah, not real. Not real. Cyclone can't hurt you. Okay. More Typhlosion. More of the same stuff, really. This one isn't playing Artisan, but that's fine. Playing a few other bits. Another one of the Charizard Dust Noirs. I think this deck is so cool. I got to play with this a little bit more. Not popular, but man, it's cool. And it's had a couple high-profile results, and the list just seems to be, like, well-oiled. We do have a couple top 8 Guardies that are not jelly-based, I think. This is a 1/1 jelly, so bit of a hybrid. Doesn't have the Devo stuff, but just says, oh, I guess Frillish is a good enough card to weave in, and then maybe sometimes I evolve it. But then mostly still being Driftly and Screamy. Kind of like a mismatch of everything, and just saying, I'll find a spot for each of these guys. Let me just grab the ones I need when I need them. I think that's reasonable enough. Then we have another build this is definitely like a straight build, right? It's just playing Scream, Clefairy, Mew, and then has Flutter, Devo as well. So leaning a little bit into the Devo. I think E-Switch also is an indication of that, where you're trying to weave in more monkey action. But yeah, more in line with what we've seen from the NAIC, I suppose. For Rigoroth Milotic, yay, more walls. Let's move on to the final lucky draw. This is the most recent event, and then we'll end on the biggest event, which is the Smart Series. Crustle! Who's not teching? Come on, own up. Who's not teching for Crustle Thorns? We can't let it win again, guys. Come on, please. Don't maybe sit through games of Crustle on live stream, please. I can't. Pokevital A catches baskets, like, ugh. Peak Pokemon, honestly. Peak performance. We got some Golden Go in second place. It's got the full gimme lineup. Why not, I guess? When you're already playing Heavy Balloon, like, I guess there's an argument to play the mix and match. Just that there is a time to flip the coin with continuous coin toss. This one's the Ace Nullifier again, with the triple balloon. So let's the switch in the deck. The Levincia. Levincia is very popular right now. I think Levincia is solid. I made my case for it in our recent video. Flareon in top 4, Raging Bolts, more Straight Zard. Oh, I saw the Dragazora and got excited. Nothing too much to report with the Charizard Pidge. Let's look at the Dragazoro. The small upgrade of Balloon, of course, is nice. But this is still the even off and brand shell. Not too much different going on. I do think this is a good deck for Worlds, though. Adding consistency to Dragapult with Zoro anyway, but then also covering weakness. It's just like a natural thing. And I think if you're enjoying straight Pults and just like worried about that one matchup, I think this is an easy, like, I'll at least get a few games in with this because it's more consistent than Dragazard. Like, Dragazard bricks a lot. Whereas I think that list, it's like more combo based, but I think the upsides are like quite high and it does similar things to what you're trying to do with Dragazard. The only thing I'd say is that I want to try Hilda again. Surprise, I'm trying Hilda in everything again. A quick nod to a ancient box that did kind of well. Neutralization again, popping up. Not too shabby with the lucky draw. Now let's end on the Smart Series then. I think this is insane that we're getting 1,500 player tournaments again, and the prize pool is awesome. $350 for the winner, $250 for second place. Top 4 get $100, and top 8 get $50. And that sort of incentive is amazing for the community, and it's a great thing to see heading into the World Championships, and give us a lot of data to look at, really, where rather than just like, hey, I'm bored on whatever night, let me just jam this deck because whatever, having that small cash incentive for top 8 just immediately brings more eyes to the table and more focus and attention, and people will test a little bit more seriously, I think, going into the tournament. So having a quick look at the metagame, Dengo was popular, Bolts was popular, but if you combine the Dragapults, where are we? 6% plus 3.5 plus 3. So almost 13% for the Draggers combined. So that would be more popular than Golden Go. And Gardevoir also is the 5.3 and the 5. So that's 10%. That's above Raging Bolt. So Dragapult most popular, then Golden Go, then Guardy, if you combine, which is pretty expected. Grimmsnarl and Bolt still quite popular. Charizard is definitely in that mix. Charizard being more popular than Flareon now. I feel like Flareon's positioning is really, really good. I suppose the same could be said for Charizard. I haven't tested enough of like Nuzard to know how good it is into the other stage 2s. I'm still a bit skeptical just by how much Devo is in the format, but kind of interesting. And there's been a lot of success for the Charizard Dusk, but still like not very played. Its overall win rate not that high. Miraidon really not popular among people. I think people are not really enjoying that, or at least we haven't seen a way to play it perfectly just yet. Also the Eel build even less popular. Bit of Walls, bit of Typhlosion in there. I would be surprised if this got that sort of 4.5% of the meta at Worlds. I think that's quite high. I can see Crustle and other wall stuff making 3% if you combine all the annoying, boring decks and even Pidgeot Control like in that mix, but not that popular. What's like low in popularity that's worth looking at? Like Zoroark did well at NAIC, is really unpopular. Garchomp as well had some high profile players playing at NAIC, but still not that popular. Yeah, those are the main. Oh, Toadscruel way down there as well. I guess that's always the case, but sub 1% for a deck that like top 8 of the last couple tournaments is pretty interesting. People continue to not care about Arch as well. Poor Arch Aladon. Terrible. Let's have a look at some standings then. The winner was once again the Straight Pult, the Neo Upper, the Couple Hilda. You'll love to see it. The small twists on towards deck, essentially. Continues to just have excellent runs. I think, interestingly, its losses I looked at earlier were both Charizard. Yeah, losing to 2 separate Charizards in Phase 1 and Phase 2. The only losses. And you would expect that to be a decent matchup for Straight Pulse, but there you go. This is the real interesting thing. A 14-3 record for an Ogerpon box, losing to the eventual winner, losing to a Gardevoir, and losing to a Crustle. But let's look at the deck list, because this is similar to what we saw at the NAIC, where it's an Ogre's Mask build, and you're just trying to ramp attachments with Teal Dance, and then either you use your Grass typing, or you pivot with E-switches to more type coverage with Clefairy, or just being an efficient 2-energy attacker. Or you have Ogre's Mask and you can go into Torrential Pump, or you can go into the annoying Walling Cornerstone Mask if you have to. That also happens to be a Wall Breaker. So, some interesting options going on here. You have that turn 1 attacking aggression if you want to be a go second deck, because you have Squawk, Research, and whatnot to get the turn 1 attack with Clefairy. Probably your easiest thing to attack with. But also there's the Wombo combo of like discarding an Ogerpon as you go, finding a Mask, and you can get an aggressive Torrential Pump off. You can either mask into it from a Teal Dance, or you can find double E-switch attach and get a turn 1 pump. And if you do that, you're still beating a lot of things in the format. The deck just has like a box of tricks, and Legacy Energy is still like a win condition card, right? Where you can be really annoying at times. So, yeah, pretty cool deck. Definitely underplayed again, right? Again, it had that big, or a fairly big showing at NAIC, and then also doing well in this 1,000+ player tournament. Maybe that'll turn some more heads. Let's look at the Dragger Dusk that made top 4. Again, the couple Hilda sneaking in. I think as the weeks developed, we've started to see where Hilda is landing, and most people are giving it the thumbs up, and it is making it into the best performing Draggers of different descriptions. The Charizard Dustoir popping out again for a big placement. I've really got to test this. I've got to do a video on this deck. I think it's so cool. So many options of where you can like blow up your board and make things happen. A Joltik box made top 8. Pretty unique list. The Brave Bangle, similar to what we saw in Japan, really. It makes Galvantula just so much more dangerous. Allowing Galvantula to hit 210 into opposing Fez and Latties and whatnot really makes it like a really annoying problem for an opponent, where they really don't want to have to take it out, but it just represents such a favourable prize trade for you during the game, as it's almost always ignored. And then it once again has the Genesect in here. Again, I'll make that question of like, is it worth a bench spot over a Mew, a Fez, or a Lati? And is it worth spending a precious Nest Ball on it? Sometimes no, but I suppose if you think the matchup into Dengo is bad enough that you just have it in here, and against certain matchups you go for it. Maybe something like that is what I'm thinking about. But yeah, Joltik box still making it happen. Typhlosion made top 8 as well. Let's see what this lost to actually. Losing to the Charizard, tying the Guardy, and losing to a Zoroark. Interesting. Okay. You feel like the Zoro would be a good matchup. You have no problem reaching 28. Maybe they just got Flame Body Cannon to Oblivion or something. Again, similar to what we've seen before. Nothing too shocking about the list. It's not playing the ticket, though. A ticketless list. That's crazy. Surely you make space for the ticket, right? What the? Don't just prize them. That ruins everything. I know ticket's like a kind of bad card, but it's really good in Typhlosion. Wow. Another Dragon Dusk in top 8. The double... Yeah, I mean, it's more of what we've seen before. Straightforward Dragon Dusk. Some Charizard Pidge doing well as well. Got the Briar in here. You don't always see the Briar anymore in Charizard Pidge, but having that option is still powerful. It means you can do even more shenanigans and make comebacks. Grant Manley, definitely high-profile player in top 16 with a Gardevoir, always worth looking into. Has the Devo Flutter. Kind of a less is more approach, not quite going the full turbo energize, but going for monkey for dark. Pretty good, making space for the extra supporter card, I understand. Armor Rouge in top 16 as well. A list with, obviously you can't play Prism Energy on live, otherwise that would be the case over Luminous. But it has Durant Hands, Ogapon. Reshiram, obviously a big upgrade for the deck for generic high damage output as the game progresses. Yeah, pretty cheeky stuff overall. The Minior in here to avoid some trapping, I guess. Or to be a hands answer, maybe. Kind of cheeky. Kind of cheeky. Some Grim in top 16. Also a Crustle in top 16. Gotta respect it. Blitzel playing Raging Bolt. It's so sad seeing him play Raging Bolt instead of Pidgeot. Still has the Cornerstone, though. He remembers his roots. He remembers his roots, and that's what's important. Yeah. Anything else standing out in that top 32? Let's have a look. Nothing too crazy. I think that was the main takeaways. So I think for my personal testing, gotta try out this Ogre's Mask deck. Gotta try out the Charizard Dust Noir. If you haven't tried those out, definitely give them the time of day. I think they can still be surprises at the World Championships where some players won't get around to testing against them enough. So that's definitely going to be interesting. The Golden Go is definitely here to stay. So much so that I feel like the metagame is slightly shifting a little. It's almost overcorrecting for Golden Go, where there's slightly elevated Typhlosion for my money. Also, there's stuff like Crustle and Cornerstone Masks popping into decks just to deal with this matchup. And I feel like that may not be the case by the time Worlds comes around. Miraidon Unsolved, definitely. I feel like I have to keep putting work into that. I think I was really unsatisfied with my in-paper testing with new Miraidon Eels. But I do think just inherently the deck isn't bad. I feel like you can see the logic of how it can race stuff. It's just how flexible other decks can be around the Zekrom is the big question. I think I want to try Eel-less Miraidon, but still with Zekrom, and just play Magnet, see how that goes. I'm going to explore that definitely. But I still think the top decks are still the top decks, really. I think Dengo has made its case to be in that top 5 now, more solidly, whereas I think it was a bit on that sort of outskirts, maybe around the top 10. I think now it's solidly in that top 5 alongside the stage 2s. I think Charizard's made it claim for itself again, being one of the big stage 2s in the meta as well. And right now it looks like the straight Dragger's been winning the most out of the Dragger variants, but Dragazard's actually been performing the worst of the bunch. I think the Dragger Dusk has performed pretty okay, though. And straight Dragger's been fine. Or at least it's had a number of decent results with the small Hilda upgrade. The overall winningest right now, Grimmsnarl doing well. Charizard doing fine. Typhlosion doing pretty well, actually. 52%. Maybe that's inflated by Dengo. And Dragger Dust doing pretty well. The fraud alerts right now. Guardy Jelly on massive fraud alert. Below 40% overall win rates. Is it just inconsistent pile? Is it just too many spaces to make it happen? Or do people not know how to use the cards properly yet? I know that sounds really rude. But it's such a unique way to play the deck and so different from how you would play previous Guardy that maybe it's just unintuitive right now. But I also think it's also 4 slots to the inconsistency. Maybe it will end up being 1-1 packages just to have Frillish. And then oh, if I'm playing Frillish, I should play a Jelly, you know? Miraidon's been having shocking percentages. Yeah, I think that needs a little bit of work. Definitely. Right, there you go. Those are my thoughts on the online tournaments. I'm going to try and do this for the other Smart Series tournaments because they're over 1,000 player events, so I definitely have to look at those. And as we build up towards the World Championships, I'm starting to work on my own deck lists and starting to do some spotlight videos like I've done for previous Worlds. So don't worry, the content is coming. I'm just getting through all the decks and seeing how I like building them myself and comparing them to the online tournaments, because there are some differences there in opinion, and I'm trying to navigate that. Honestly, most of my time so far has been with Dragapult builds and seeing how many Hilda and Arven versus the Brock research thing that we've seen in the past, and that's taken me down a whole rabbit hole. But yeah, I've tried all sorts of other stuff as well. I've been playing a lot of Zoroark actually myself, also with Hilda. I'm just obsessed with Hilda and how it can change the game, to be honest with you. Anyway, that's my main thoughts. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon for another video. Cheers.